The idea to do the exhibition Timecode was a discussion that we were having about how we mark DCA's 10th anniversary, or the beginning of the 10th anniversary year. The discussion kind of went around the idea of we didn't really want to just do a sort of celebratory birthday party type of exhibition. You know, how do you do this? And we started to talk very much about the fact that 10 years really within time frame isn't a long time, but it's certainly a time that we would want to mark. So Timecode came about through this sort of conversation about artists who were really obsessed with marking time, and really the relentlessness of time's passage, and really kind of working on lots of different levels, so that that we weren't just it wasn't just a sort of birthday party thing, but it actually seriously was about engaging with artists who have a passion and obsession about time.
My name's John Thompson.
And I'm Alison Craighead. And we've been working together for the last 15 years?
Yep, 15 years, under the name Thompson and Craighead. And since then we've been working with video, but also more recently we've been making installations that look at live networks, like the internet, things like that.
A thread that runs through our work is the idea of using networks so you can physically be somewhere but virtually be somewhere else. So for instance, Horizon uses webcams, and ever since the mid-90s I've always been amazed to be able to sit and look in real time at, say, San Francisco or Alaska or the North Pole.
So in the case of Horizon, what we did is we tried to build what was effectively a clock, where by finding a webcam, a pre-existing one, not one that we've put up, in every time zone across the world, we tried to create an array of images which, if you read it from left to right, presents a little kind of narrative snapshot of what's going on in that time zone. But as you look at it vertically, as the planet rotates the sun, you see day and night sweep by. So in effect, what you end up with is what we call a narrative clock. Not one that necessarily tells you the exact time, but it is a clock nonetheless, a kind of electronic sundial. I mean, Beacon is also a clock in a way, because although it's a railway flap sign that just displays a piece of text once a minute, what it's doing is it's actually plucking a search term, something that someone's looking for in the internet. So those little strings of text that you type into Google, or whatever search engine it is that you prefer to use, it goes out into the ether, and we use a little bit of software that grabs one of those searches and then displays it on the sign, the railway sign. And in a way that marks time as a kind of clock, I guess.
And I think we think of them as clocks, but also we think of them obviously as landscapes as well, and I think for both works. So maybe Beacon, for instance, isn't an obvious landscape, but actually it becomes a landscape that reflects how we use the internet and what we want.
That's something that a variety of works that we've made in the last few years has really looked at that kind of intersection between what might be landscape and what might be portraiture, because the flap sign, again, and I suppose a little bit with Horizon, is effectively a kind of portrait of us collectively as an internet-using population, what we want, what we like. It kind of shows us something to ourselves. We describe it often as a kind of silent witness that just shows ourselves to ourselves, but it is a landscape as well, isn't it? It shows a kind of data landscape. It makes a connection between, I don't know, virtual space and the physical space of the gallery in this case.
So my name is Christian Stock. I'm born in Tyrol in the Austrian Alps, small village, 1,300 meters high, only 250 people are living there. My father is there still working as a wood carver, and that's also my profession. Then in the early 80s I went to Vienna to the Academy of Fine Arts to study painting. In the early 80s I invented these cube paintings behind me, and the idea was to paint over one painting all the time, again and again and again, and maybe build out of the black square of Malevich a real cube at the end. So I painted one black square, let it dry, overpaint it again and again, and then it grew up to a realism cube painting. I started these cube paintings, and then it took me a long time to finish one, 4 or 5 years, and I only finished, I think, 19 or 20 in the last 25 years. And so I had to invent another painting idea, similar to the cubes. So we have the slow painting and the quicksilver painting. And it's essential for me to take this time to paint these cube paintings. It's like Snowfall, maybe. Snowfall was maybe the most influence. Snowfall. As a child, up in the mountains, I saw the snowflakes falling down, thousands, millions of them, and I can't imagine that they will grow to 1 meter high snow in one day. So I can't imagine that paint will grow up to a real cube. They have to take their time to get it. I think that's always the problem about my cubes, that the people see it and think that's a sculpture and don't see the time, and it's really only paint. Maybe it's a problem, but for the awake people, they will see it and find it.
My name's Graham Dolphin, and I'm originally from Staffordshire in the West Midlands, but I now live in Newcastle, and I've lived pretty much all over. Never lived in Scotland actually, but lived most places, London for a long time, and I studied painting in Bath College back in the 90s, and my practice never really consisted of painting particularly, but it wasn't 3D either, so I tended towards painting. And the two works that I'm showing here at DCA, the one behind us is called 1 Month, which is a tracing of all the images from the front covers of the Times newspaper from November of last year, 2008. Simple line drawings traced over one another. So you get a build-up of a certain line and image where some things are revealed and hidden, and it becomes a bit of a mess, and your eye hopefully unpicks certain aspects of that. And we're also doing a print that's based on that drawing, which we're working on at the moment. And I have a video piece in the second gallery, which is called Miles and Miles, which is a 10-second loop of Miles Davis playing in 1959. It's a very, very small part of an introduction to a television broadcast concert that he did. And it pans from left to right, the camera, and what I've done is taken that brief 10 seconds of that pan across, looped it so it plays backwards then forwards continuously, and then mirrored on either side, and you get a kind of visual remixing, and also the sound is remixed as well in a very direct way. And I guess if I wanted to talk about that in a theoretical way, it's kind of to do with this freezing of time, a moment in musical history of Miles Davis performing, and now this thing is, pretty much everywhere. You can grab this thing off YouTube or anything, and it becomes something else, removed from its original context and time, and then also stretching the notation of the time in terms of music backwards and forwards. So this thing becomes an endless cycle. Well, it's quite nice to be asked to be part of something like this, because work normally gets put into shows that are more poppy, more kind of about popular culture, because that's my main source material. Everything I make is always based or uses something that always exists in the world, and they're usually quite hot culturally. So I've used a lot of fashion imagery and things. So I've tended to have the work shown in those kind of contexts. But I think behind all of the thinking and the making of the work is an idea of almost a performative aspect of making the work. So in particular the drawing, the 1 month drawing, it's an idea of time spent making the drawing, and a very definite framework that drawing rests into. So I pick a particular month for that piece, and whatever happens in that month I can't predict, and I can't dictate what those covers are going to be on the newspapers that I choose. And then it's a case of drawing each one each day, and then the next one comes out and I draw the next one. So I guess it's a durational aspect of that, which fits in most directly with the show. But it's also about the fixing of those kind of little moments in history or that we live through, particularly in the kind of newspapers we consume. And November was a particularly kind of poignant historical moment in time, I think, with the first black president in the States, and then the terrorist attacks in Mumbai, and lots of kind of sport things and stuff. And it seemed very kind of, we seem to be in flux a lot of the time at the moment anyway in terms of our history, but it seemed particularly poignant to do that. But I'm sure I could choose another month that will feel as poignant.